The trial of the prosecutor versus Dominic Ongwen continued from 22nd October until 19th November 2018 at the International Criminal Court in The Hague. The prosecution and the legal representatives of victims already presented its evidence before the chamber earlier this year, and now it's the turn of the defense. During this time, a total of 10 witnesses were called by the Ongwen defense team to give their testimony before the chamber in relation with the Lord's Resistance Army and Dominic Ongwen. Dominic Ongwen, the alleged former commander of the senior brigade of the LRA, is accused of 70 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity allegedly committed during a widespread and systematic attack directed against the civilian population of northern Uganda from at least 1st July 2002 to 31st December 2005, including the attacks against the civilian population in Lukodi, Pajule, Odek, and Abok IDP camps between October 2003 and June 2004. Since opening of the Ongwen case on the 16th January 2017, the prosecution called 69 witnesses, while the legal representatives of victims called 7 witnesses who testified before the chamber. And now, the Ongwen defense team, led by Defense Counsel Crispus Ayena Odongo, is expected to present about 72 witnesses, and out of this number, 14 witnesses have been presented before the chamber. During this evidentiary block, 10 witnesses testified before the chamber regarding the LRA, Joseph Kony, Dominic Ongwen, and the political landscape in Uganda. During their opening statement, the Ongwen defense team talked about the history of Uganda politics and how that affected the rise of LRA in northern part of Uganda. 2 defense witnesses testified about the political landscape in Uganda in detail. Nathan Ayoni Emory, a former officer in the Uganda People Front, Uganda People Army, UPF/UPA, testified about many issues, including the political history of Uganda from his perspective and working with the LRA. Mr. Emory said he provided VIP protection to Milton Obote, former Uganda president, in 1981. As a VIP bodyguard, he received several military trainings in North Korea, China, India, as well as Tanzania. In 1984, he and other individuals were taken to Tanzania for 2-year training, during which Mr. Obote was overthrown by rogue officers in the UNLA, Uganda National and Liberation Force, who were later on overthrown by current President Yoweri Museveni between 1985 and 1986. Museveni had assured the witness and the other trainees of their safe return to Uganda if they chose to join the National Resistance Alliance, NRA. Mr. Emory returned to Uganda and was taken to a political and ideology training for NRA in Masaka. While there, he saw many kadogos, a Swahili term to refer to child soldiers. He also saw captured soldiers, some were wounded, some were emaciated, and others dying. He realized that the place of his training was a detention camp, and he refused to stay there and was taken to Mbarara. In Mbarara, he saw over 10,000 children from North and East Uganda living in bad conditions while undergoing military training. Mr. Emory said that he eventually refused to take the political and ideological course and was taken to Kiborara prison farm. While there, he saw over 7,000 captured children who were being military trained and who later on graduated and sent to fight in northern Uganda. Mr. Emory said that he was requested to military train the children at the prison farm, which he did for a while before he left.
And where did you go?
Present, Your Honors, I went to my home district, Teso.
And how long did you spend in Teso?
When I arrived in Teso, there was war. NRA was attacking villages, attacking everybody left and right, looting, killing people. So I said, no, what do I do now? The elders decided that, no, you young people, you must defend us. It was an agreement between us and the elders So I joined the rebellion because they had already started. They started fighting against NRA.
Now, how were you introduced to the rebellion that you joined?
President Your Honors, I knew most of the commanders who started the rebellion, and they regarded me as their boss because most of them were from a unit of the police force called the Special Force. So when they had a big senior commander has come, they absorbed me. And then, because the rebellion was, the political wing was led by Peter Tai, who was the Minister of Defense at that time, whom I knew very well. And one of his brothers was one of the commanders, so they knew me.
So which group, what was the name of the group which you joined?
Uganda People's Front, Uganda People's Army, UPA. UPF, UPA.
Now, were or was the UPA stroke UPF successful in holding back the NRA advance into Teso?
President Your Honors, we did. We did remove all NRA deployments in Teso from the villages. We stopped their cattle rustling, which they were doing. We stopped killings, and we isolated them to one town, two towns in the whole of Teso, Soroti and Kumi. Those were the only two towns they were holding in Teso. But the rest of the district were liberated.
While fighting for the rebellion against the NRA government, Mr. Emory said that he went to Aru in Sudan in 1996 to meet with Joseph Kony to request him to assist UPA/UPF to help move its military weapons from Sudan to east of Uganda, where there were conflicts with the Uganda government soldiers. The witness explained in details the proxy war that took place between el-Bashir from Sudan and Museveni from Uganda. Mr. Emory also said that he was a guest commander with the LRA between 1996 till 2000. During his time with the LRA, he witnessed many incidents such as LRA base being attacked, as well as witnessing the pressures the LRA were put under by the Sudanese government and the international community to release the abducted Aboke schoolgirls. Mr. Emory was invited to Juba to negotiate on behalf of the LRA with Sister Rachel, the head teacher of the Aboke school, about the release of the girls. He also confirmed that he later on relocated to Khartoum because the Qatar Center wanted to negotiate with the Kony for a peaceful conflict resolution regarding the abducted girls, as well as peaceful negotiations with the government of Uganda. Another witness who testified about the political landscape in Uganda that led to the rise of the LRA was Mr. Jackson Achama. Mr. Achama said that he was a school teacher in 1986 when the National Resistance Army, NRA, led by Yoweri Museveni, overthrew the UNLA government of Tito Okello. The overthrown government, the UNLA, went to the bush to rebel and fight the NRA. The witness became a UNLA coordinator, assisting them in collecting foodstuff, mobilizing civilians, and explaining to the civilians what the rebel group was planning. He explained why he joined the UNLA rebel group.
My first question was, can you describe to court the conditions which were obtaining, presented by the new group that had overthrown the government that you talked about? And maybe you'd also tell court who overthrew which government.
Thank you. When the NRA overthrew the government of the UNLA, this government of the NRA is led by Kaguta Museveni. And the UNLA government was led by Tito Okello. So when the UNLA were ousted, and the NRM government came to power, actually the NRA were not cooperative with the civil population. They were carrying out arbitrary arrest. They were killing people innocently. They were also torturing. So that was the cause why most of the people decided to join the rebel group, which I was one of them. Yes.
So, is it your statement that initially you went to join, to give assistance to the new rebel group because you yourself had issues with the new forces that had overthrown the government?
I was also not happy with them because they were not treating the civil community well. They even collected all the livestock from our area. And they were killing people mercilessly. So that was a violation of human rights. That was why I decided to join them.
Mr. Chama said that in 1987, the Holy Spirit Mobile Forces, currently known as the LRA, forcefully took him and others and recruited them into the rebel group. While in the LRA, his role was that of a technician in Yard Koi. A yard is like a shrine where God exercised his power, the witness explained. His duties as a technician included controlling enemy firearms during a battle by praying for the firearms to fail. He later on became a clerk to the Spirit.
That's very good. But now you have introduced something else, Jackson, by saying you are the chief to the Spirit, chief clerk to the Spirit. What exactly did this entail?
The clerk to the Spirit writes the minutes of the Spirit, because when Kony is possessed by the Spirit, when he's delivering speeches, he becomes unconscious because he will be in spirit. Then the minutes must be written down so that when the Spirit leaves him, the minutes will be read to him. Yes.
Now, you seem to have played a very central role within the yard and with the spirits, and observed Joseph Kony very closely. Can you tell court maybe your first experience when you realized actually this man is not normal? When did you first experience Joseph Kony being seized by the spirits?
Actually, as soon as I joined Holy Spirit Mobile Forces, I knew Kony was in spirit. Because whatever he says happens exactly the way he says it. He could tell the number of enemies coming, the kind of guns that they have, the direction they are taking, and how they will be deployed. And all this will happen exactly as he has said. So this one cannot happen with a person who is not having the Holy Spirit.
Mr. Chama said that as a clerk to the Spirit, he kept a notebook with all the instructions from the spirits speaking to Kony. While never saw the Spirit himself, he believed that those spirits spoke to Kony and that he was possessed by several spirits such as Juma Oris, Sili Selindi, Who Are You, among many other spirits. Regarding Dominic Ongwen, Mr. Chama said that the accused was abducted when he was going to school. Ongwen's first tasks after abduction, because he was young, were domestic affairs and carrying luggage for Commander Tolbert Nyero. Because he was working closely with the commander by carrying the luggage, it was difficult for the accused to have run away, the witness explained. Later on, Ongwen was given command responsibilities and he wasn't a notorious commander. Regards attack in Odek, Pajule, Lukodi, and Abok, Mr. Chama said that
By the time you left the bush, had you heard about the attack in Pajule, attack in Abok, attack in Lukodi, and attack in Joseph Con's place of birth?
Yes, because attacks is not a secret thing. When a rebel attacks a place, the community becomes aware that there was insurgency in this area. So, according to the information that we were receiving, the attack in Lokodi was overseen by Bulalibok Abu Dema. So in Pajule, what Nyeko told about Yardin, in Bar Lonyo was Okoto Diambo, and in Odek was Osan Bunya.
Mr. Jackson, how did you come to know of these attacks?
When we came out of the bush, we were very close with the UPD. Because they also wanted to get some other information from us, so we could share information.
Thank you. Please,
Yes.
Mr.
Jackson, by the time you left, and from your knowledge of the way LRA operated, was Dominic in a position to sit at the top, I mean, in top decision-making meetings for planning, for instance, attacks?
We should not ask the witness, so to speak, to guess or so. If he has information about it, I would ask you please to rephrase it a little bit, in a more objective manner.
Jackson, did you have any information as to whether Dominic Ongwen participated in planning some of the attacks, although you said they were overseen by the people you mentioned?
I'm not aware, because planning in the LRA, there is what we call the inner ring, which constitutes the Joseph Kony, T. Vincent, that is the chairman and the operational room and the army commander. These are the first people who make the first plan to execute. Sometimes they include the division commander. So the brigade commander is just in the third ring outside. So all the brigade commanders do not have any higher authority in planning.
And according to your experience, once the inner ring had taken a decision, would could it be defied by, for instance, the executing agency like the brigade or the battalion?
Any unit cannot defy what the inner ring has already concluded.
Are you suggesting that all they would have to do is to execute as directed by the inner ring?
Yes.
Prosecution senior trial lawyer cross-examined the witness about Kony's spirits during battles. The witness confirmed that if the spirits ordered LRA soldiers to kill everybody in the battlefield, then that's exactly what they will do, even if they will be innocent people. Mr. Chama also confirmed that in 2001, 29 LRA officers, including him, were arrested and accused of treason, and they were to be executed on Kony's order. It was Commander Banya that intervened and they were spared. When asked why they were accused of treason, the witness said that he and other LRA officers requested for LRA to avoid attacking civilian population, and this was seen as being rebellious against the spirit because the spirit had ordered for everybody to be killed. The witness said that he felt as a human being that it was inappropriate to kill fellow human beings, but if the spirit ordered for their death, then they will not be spared. Legal representatives of victims, Joseph Manoba, questioned the witness briefly about life with the LRA. There were several LRA abductees who testified during this evidentiary block. They testified about their abduction, initiation into the LRA and life with the group, and finally their escape and life after the bush. Some witnesses testified with protection measures of face distortion, the use of pseudonym, and part of their testimony were heard in private sessions, while other witnesses testified without protective measures or via video link. Witnesses D26P0079, D26P0150, D26P0026, D26P0024, D26P0007, D26P0006, and finally D26P0119 all testified about their experiences while in the LRA. Witness D26P0024 said that he was abducted by the LRA soldiers on 2nd July 1996 while he was 16 years old. He was abducted from his village of Chopil in Gulu district. He was initiated into the LRA, after which his role at this time was to cook and collect firewood. The LRA group moved from Uganda to Sudan, where the witness stayed for a while. While in Sudan, the witness said that his role and duties changed from cooking and collecting firewood to taking new abductees through ritual ceremony, blessing and anointing weapons, and helping Kony to look for herbs. The witness said that Joseph Kony was possessed by many different spirits, and that the spirits used Kony to pass messages to the LRA group.
Mr. Witness, you talked about orders for abduction, that it was the overall person who gave those orders. Who was this overall commander? Can you tell court who he was?
The overall commander is the LRA leader, who is Joseph Kony. But also, Kony says he is also a messenger of the spirits that work with him. So he receives message from the spirits that the spirits want such and such kind of people. So for him, he only relays the message from the spirit to the people, and then the people have to work with that order.
Thank you. Did you, Mr. Witness, meet this gentleman called Joseph Kony? And if so, when did you stay closely with him, and did you study him?
I met him, and also sometimes I stay close to him, because most of my stay, I spent my times in Sudan, and he also lived in Sudan. But while he was in Sudan, he would not stay at one place with the people. He would move from one place to visit the different groups. But most times he lived together with his security. The visits that he make to the different groups is really to deliver the message from the spirit, and also to do perform some other rituals that are required. There are things that he also brings, which he says the spirit gave that people should be given so that they stay with them. He also brings a message for abduction, and he would also tell people and instruct them how the abduction should be conducted. He would look at different groups, people who are in Uganda, people who are in Sudan. So he would instruct how the abduction should be, how many people should be abducted. But also, the abductees should not be used by such commanders before they have been taken to the same place. You are instructed, once you abduct, make sure you take care of them, bring them until they are delivered to where they should be taken. And you are only supposed to perform the required rituals. Once you have brought the abductees to him, then he will choose them. He will look at them, and he will say, there are some people that the spirits have not welcomed them. So those people are released and they go back. While those who remain are distributed to the different groups. But it is not you, the commander who did the abduction, that should distribute the people. It has to be him that would do the distribution.
The witness explained that from 2000, these spirits left Kony and didn't visit him as much as they used to, and his predictions didn't come to pass as he had prophesied. The witness said that Kony at some point lost power, and that's when people started escaping because there was no fear anymore. Another witness, D26P0007, testified about his abduction and life in the LRA. D26P0007 said that he was abducted together with the accused, Dominic Ongwen, was around 11 years, and another boy, Opio Oloro, while they were going to school in 1987. He referred to the accused as his brother because their parents were brothers in the clan. They were initiated into LRA and the three boys were military trained. The witness narrated an incident whereby they watched an escapee being killed, and that brought fear and changed his life. After 3.5 months after the abduction, the three boys were split up and the witness never heard about Ongwen or Opio again. The witness said that when he returned, he had no knowledge of Ongwen's whereabouts since the time of his abduction until he saw the warrant of arrest. And even after the warrant of arrest was issued, he wasn't sure if it was the Dominic that he knew or another Dominic in the LRA. Two former LRA abductees testified during this blog about their experiences in the LRA. Witness D26P0006 said that after her initiation ritual into LRA, she was given to an LRA commander, and her duties included carrying luggage of the commander as well as washing his clothes. The witness explained that once women were abducted and brought into the LRA, they are sent for initiation and various rituals are performed on them. Kony was present to give instructions on how the girls are going to be distributed and to which commander or to which household. And if you're young, the witness explained, you will be a babysitter in the household that you are taken to until you are of age to become that commander's wife.
Ms. Witness, how did a woman become a wife in the LRA?
In the LRA, a woman becomes a wife. Let me give an example. When people are abducted, people are sent to the yard, especially if a huge number of people are abducted. They send you to the yard, they perform the smearing ritual. If you have older girls, the girl is taken. Kony would actually be present, and Kony would then make the decision and say these girls should be distributed. Take this number to this household, take this number to this household, take that number to this household. Then they would take the girls that he's instructed to each of the commander's households. If you are there, if you're a mature girl or a much older girl, then you're immediately given to a commander as a wife, and you're told that you're being given to this commander, he is now going to be your husband. But if you're young, then they'll tell you, go to this commander's household, you will eventually become his wife, but at the outset, you'll work as a babysitter, you'll do household chores, and you'll take care of things. And that is how women are turned into wives.
To be more specifically, we would have to go to private session, but I think you know that. But I don't know if you want to go into this area.
Not just yet. Now, you said that Kony would make an order to have the women distributed. To the best of your knowledge, could anyone else order that a woman be distributed as a wife?
If somebody distributes people without Kony's permission or knowledge, then the person is punished, because Kony would then tell the person that he has committed an infraction and should not do that, because everybody who is abducted belongs to the army and does not belong personally to a particular commander.
What type of punishment would be meted out against these persons?
Most times, if there are minor infractions, if Kony decides, for example, if you take that woman and make that woman your wife, then he would take that woman away from you. Sometimes while he takes away the woman, he will also take away some of your soldiers, and he'd also take away your weapons, and you'd have less soldiers and no weapons for about a week, and then he will decide to give them back to you. But it also depends on what the infraction is.
Did the woman have a choice when she was assigned a husband?
If you have just been abducted, if you're newly abducted, you have no right. If you are given to somebody, that's it. You don't have any choice. But if somebody is a widow, if her husband dies during battle, then that person can choose whoever she wants, because they then make the decision and say that person has been there for a long time. That person is now capable of making a choice of her own. So the person is not forced to take a particular husband.
And to the best of your knowledge, did a man get to choose which woman was assigned to him?
Men who had the right to choose were mostly Kony and his deputy. But most times, if Kony does not want you to have that person, does not want his deputy to have that person, if the deputy selects that person, Kony might decide to take that person away and give her to somebody else. But most times, he is the one who makes the decision.
So again, to the best of your knowledge, did anyone other than Kony or his deputy, were they allowed to choose their own wife?
You can choose somebody, but you do not have the absolute right, because you might select the person, but he will not grant that person to you. But sometimes you can plead, you can beg and say that, can I please have this one? And then he might make the decision to give the person to you, but otherwise you don't really have the absolute choice to take that person.
The witness also testified that she moved into Kony's household around 1993 when Kony and LRA were having peace talks with Ugandan government. According to the witness, the peace talks ended and Kony ordered the LRA group to move to Sudan. The witness said that at the time, Kony had 4 wives and also several girls in his household. The witness explained that the LRA received help from the Sudanese government after the LRA moved from Uganda and settled in Palotara, Sudan. This help included things like land, food items, and water, medication and hospitals. Uniforms and weapons were given to the LRA by the Sudanese government for about 6 to 7 years, and then Operation Iron Fist occurred. Operation Iron Fist was done to remove LRA from Sudan, and so the LRA started moving to Uganda. During this journey to Uganda, the witness said that she was heavily pregnant and had toddlers. The LRA groups were attacked by a gunship helicopter, and they kept splitting into smaller groups. Witness D26P0119 also testified that she was abducted into the LRA and was distributed to several LRA persons as a wife, while the LRA were from moving to various locations around Uganda and Sudan. The witness confirmed that she had met the accused.
Now, while you were in the LRA, did you ever meet Dominic Ongwen?
While I was in the LRA, I used to know Dominic Ongwen. I even met him.
Do you recall when you met him?
I do not recall the period I met him, but I know Dominic Ongwen. I was staying close by while we were in the bush.
Understandable, Ms. Witness, that you do not know the exact time, but Can you tell us perhaps a time frame when it was? Was it in the 1990s still? Was it in the 2000 years?
What I know is, well, I do not recall which period exactly, but I remember I was told at some point that Dominic Ongwen sustained some injuries on his leg, and I never came to know where he was taken after he was injured. But I used to know Dominic Ongwen even from Sudan, and when we came back to Uganda as well.
Follow up from there.
Can you briefly describe Dominic Ongwen? As you remember him, you said you lived close by.
What I know about Dominic Ongwen is that, well, I don't know which year he was abducted, but I only came to realize that he was already in the bush. I came to realize his presence in the bush quite some time early, because he was in a battalion that was called Senior. I started seeing him from there, and when he was transferred to Control Altar, he stayed there. He didn't stay very far away from where I was when he was at Control Altar. I started knowing him from there as well. What I knew about Dominic Ongwen was that he was a good person, because first, while we were leaving Sudan to come to Uganda, Dominic Ongwen was helping several women. The kind of help he was providing included something like if he stayed back following the group and he finds somebody who is now failing to continue walking, he would not do like others would do, because what the other people would do, when you find somebody who has failed to continue walking, they would say, let's have this one rest here, and then they have the person killed. I can confirm it actually happened to me. He came to me, picked a baby I was carrying, he moved with me, we climbed a hill, and then we climbed down to the next side of the hill and then handed the baby back to me. That was the kind of help he gave to me. He didn't give help only to me, but to very many other people. I saw the way he was treating people. He was not a harsh commander. He was a good person. I can confirm that he was a very good person. Regarding her escape, the witness confirmed that she attempted to escape 2 times. And the first time she did it and was brought back, she was whipped by 3 men who used machetes and sticks on her back, and she sustained injuries. She confirmed that she escaped successfully in 2004. Expert witness Mr. Christoph Titeka, a professor at the University of Antwerp Institute of Development Policy, testified during this evidentiary block. His main area of research and study is governance and conflict in spaces, particularly in Central and East Africa. In his research, he focused on DRC and Uganda rebel movements such as LRA, among others. He has also been teaching conflict, local governance, and research methods, among other topics. Mr. Titeka, who worked in this field for 15 years, during his testimony answered questions regarding his expertise, his research and academic reports and papers, as well as the exact research methodology. Mr. Titeka confirmed that he was requested to write a report by the defense regarding the role of spiritualism and its impact on individuals in rebel groups such as LRA. He further confirmed that he has published his findings in various academic books and journals, and he is indeed considered an expert in this field. Mr. Titeka also said that he researched spiritualism through 2 perspectives: the individual combatant perspective and the abstract perspective. The individual perspective means how individual former combatants experience spiritualism and how they give meaning to it, and finally how that impacts them individually. The abstract perspective is just that abstract perspective of spiritualism. Mr. Titeka said that since 2004, he conducted field research whereby he collected data in the field by 1. Interviewing former combatants, 2. Interviewing the affected populations, 3. Interviewing policymakers. Since 2004, he has interviewed over 500 individuals, including 120 were former combatants. The witness confirmed that spiritualism plays a huge role in the LRA and that it has a huge impact on individuals. Mr. Titeka said that throughout his years of research in the field, he has heard from former LRA combatants about the different manifestations of spiritualism and its effects. Mr. Titeka also discussed mind control and escape from the LRA. He said that he talked to former LRA combatants who didn't escape when they had an opportunity to, because they thought Kony could read their mind. Other combatants told Mr. Titeka that there were repercussions to the people around the escapees because they are seen as conspirators. Senior prosecution trial lawyer questioned the witness about his report and his methodology for collecting data. Hearings in the Ongwen trial have concluded for the year 2018. The trial will resume on 14 January 2019 after the winter recess with the testimony of the 15th defense witness.